With Kontakt Scripting, instruments can have custom control panels called performance views. This allows you to control instrument settings without switching into edit mode and allows you to create a custom user interface. In this video tutorial, I'll show you how to create knobs that control the 3-band EQ in Performance View. And never miss a tutorial by subscribing to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/ADSR So first I'll start off by making a new instrument, going into edit mode, and opening the script editor. And last but not least, I'll hit the edit button to open up the editor. An alternative to using this is to use Nil's K-script editor, which I talked about in last week's tutorial. So either way, it doesn't matter. So with all scripts, you need to start with the on init. And as you can see, there's no errors there. I'm going to go ahead and close this keyboard. Alright, so what makes the performance view is this command called make perf view. And you won't see anything yet until you actually set the size of it. So the next thing that I'm going to do is set the title. This is totally optional, but I recommend setting the titles so they show up in the window. Oops, I forgot to close it. So not only does it show up here, but it also shows up in a tab. So that's why I recommend to set it. And then finally, if you are using any messages in your script, this will clear it. So when the script runs, the message section here will be cleared. So the message, you can use this for notifications, maybe like a copyright. Also, you can use it for testing. You can populate it with values. So if you're ever in a situation where you don't know what's going on and you need to actually see it, you can just pipe it into a message so you can see it in this lower left hand corner. Alright, so the first thing that we want to do is declare a knob, and you do that with declare UI knob, and you give it a name. I'm going to call it EQ gain 1, and then I'm going to set the min and the max. Alright, so in Kontakt, when you do knobs, it has to have the range has to go from 0 to 1,000,000, and the display value is 1. So you'll see how this works when I actually display the knob. Okay, so now we have the knob here, and we need to move the knob. So I'm going to move it. I'm going to use, by default, the performance view is in grid mode. I'm gonna leave it like that because I don't need a big performance view right now. So I'm not going to set the size. I'm going to leave it as the default. All right, so I'm going to move this to position 1, 2. So I have the knob name, one, 2. All right, so this moves it to 1, 2. And in a later tutorial, I'll actually show you what this grid looks like, so you can use it for reference to position elements. Next, I'm going to set the text of the label. me just copy this. I don't have to keep typing it. So knob gain low. Oops. And the command is actually set text, set underscore text. All right. So I changed the label to low for the low band of an EQ. Next, I need to set the unit. So the gain of the EQ is in decibels. So I'm going to set the knob unit of this knob to knob unit dB, and that puts a dB right next to the value. So this is totally optional, but I'm going to set the default value of the knob. So that command is set knob default value def val, and in the case of this EQ, I want it to be middle, which is 0 dB. So it'll be half of that, which will be 500,000. So if I command click on it, it'll go to. So we'll see what happens when I actually connect to the engine to get the value. We'll see how that comes into play. All right, and then I am going to go to the engine. Well, actually, before I do this step, let me go back out. For this to actually do anything, I actually need to add the 3-band EQ to the instrument. So I'm going to add it into the group, into the first slot, and I'll actually talk about how you reference the group versus instrument versus buses in these different slots. Alright, so I'm just going to do EQ, 3-band EQ. Alright. Okay, so next what I want to do is I want to set the knob label. And I want to do this by getting the parameter display, which is basically a text version of the parameter from the engine. So in this case, the parameter that I want to get is the gain, the first gain of the EQ, so gain 1. So to do that, I call set knob label. And then I pass in the name of the knob, and then I call for this would actually be the value that you want to put in the label. But what I want to do is I want to call another function, get engine parameter display, and then I'm going to pass in one more variable, which is the actual name of the parameter that I want to get the display for. So in this case, I want to get gain 1. So this is engine par gain 1, and this is all in a KSP reference. So if you wanted to get some other parameter, you will look it up in a reference to see what it is. So for instance, frequency 1, if I wanted to get frequency 1, I would do frequency 1. All right. And so the next parameter of get engine parameter display is the group. So this is 0 based, and this is basically the group that I want to get the parameter from. So I only have one group, so this is group 0. If the parameter was at the instrument level instead of the group level, so if I had my effect here in slot 0, I would use, instead of using 0 for the group, I would use -1. Okay, so the next parameter is the slot. The slot is 0 based, so the first slot is 0. If I wanted to use modulators, I would use, there's actually a find modulator command that I would use to determine what, because the modulators have an index, and in order to reference it, I would need to know what the index is. So I would use the find mod command. In the case of what we're doing here, this is an effect, so I can just reference it directly by the slot number, which is 0. If you are referencing a slot somewhere else, so like if I'm referencing a slot in the instrument bus or the send effects, then I would put -1. And then the final parameter is generic. So this basically determines whether you use instrument effects or modulators. And so when you use effects, you use this final parameter to determine whether the parameter you're trying to access is an insert or a send. If it's an insert, you would use 1. If it's a send, you would use 0. And then if you're using a bus, there's actually a command called bus offset. It's actually called NI bus offset, and it's 0 base again, and 0 through 15, and that's how you would reference one of the buses, one of the 16 buses. And then once again, if you're using modulators, there's a find target command. Instead of find mod, there's a find target, and this is how you get the actual index for the modulator that you want to reference. And for everything else, you'll set it to -1. So in this case, so because I'm using a group insert effect, not a insert or a send, so in this case, because I'm using an insert in the group and not an insert in the instrument, I will set this to -1. Now if I had this in the insert effects, so if I had it here, I would use 1, and if I was referencing an effect here, I would use 0. So 1 for instrument and 0 for send. Alright, so that is how I get the label. Oops, I'm missing a parentheses. Alright, so now what it did is it got the value of gain 1. Gain 1 is at 0. If I hit apply again, it'll get it. So okay, so one other thing that I want to do, which is a good practice, is anytime you add controls on a performance view, when you make changes and you save your instrument, or you're using Kontakt as a plugin inside your host, when you save your project, you want the values that you manipulate your control to stay, so that when you reload the instrument, it comes back. And you do that with a command called make persistent. And you just pass it the name of the knob. So now this, oops, typo, make. And it's EN, not AN. Okay, and so you do that by just passing the name of the control. So now, whenever I save this instrument, or whenever I save the project, when I'm using this in plugin mode, the value will remain the same. Okay, so now there's just one other thing that we need to do to make our knob functional. So right now, the knob will move, and it will actually get its value from the engine, but the problem is it's not actually telling the engine to change. So to do that, we need to add in a callback. So we need to add on UI control. So when on UI control is called every time a control changes. So I'll give it the name of the control I wanna listen for. So you do your on UI control and end on. So basically, what do you want to do when anytime this knob changes? So two things I want to do. I want to actually tell the engine to update gain 1, and I also want to update the label so that the label moves with the knob. So those are the two things that I want to do anytime I touch the knob. So the first thing is I want to set the engine. I want to set gain 1. So to do that, I'll call set engine parameter, and then I'll pass it the name of the parameter. So engine parameter gain 1, the name of the knob, and then group slot and generic, same as above. So now this will tell the engine to update. So as I move this, if you look down here, you can see the gain actually moving. All right, and the final step is I need to update the label in my performance view so that it reflects the value of the gain. And to do that, I'll do the same exact call that I did here to set the label, and I can actually copy and paste this. Oops. And why did I do that? I just undid. Yeah, the undo is a little clunky on here. Sorry about that. Just add this back. Just add the on UI control back. Add the set engine parameter back. Make sure that's working. That's working. All right, so I just want to add the set knob label. And now that works. Okay, so the final step to duplicate this, all I need to do is copy all of this, and I'm going to change this, call it gain 2, gain 2, I'll point this to gain 2, then do it one more time. This is going to be gain 3. Alright, I need to change a few things here. I need to move this to 2, change this to mid, then move this to 3 and change this to high. Hit apply. Voila, we have 3 other buttons. And then one last thing that I need to do is make 3 of these, or make 2 more of these. Okay, so just change this to knob 2, gain 2, knob 2. Probably faster to copy and paste. Gain 2. Gain 3. Gain 3. And gain 3. Okay, so now I have 3 knobs. As you can see, it is controlling that. Let me change this so you can see. Put on -6. As you can see, -6, -9.8, -9.8. And so if I close script editor and exit the instrument edit mode, now I have my performance view and I have full control over the 3-band EQ. So as you can see, creating knobs to control effects is pretty straightforward. You just need to understand the rules. So be sure to check out the KSP reference for more information on referencing inserts or sends and whether they are in the group, bus, insert, or send slots. And don't forget to check out our website at www.kontakttutorials.com for more Kontakt tutorials and sounds. ADSR Kontakt tutorials supercharge your Kontakt skills. This is DJ Nice signing off until next time. Now go make some music.